Hello again everyone and welcome back to The Witcher 3. We are back here in Novigrad once again, next to the burning corpses of Ciri and Chappelle. That's it. I knew that, obviously. So we did get a few bestiary entries in the last episode as well, so we obviously want to look up on those. I'm not exactly sure which ones we got. Insectoids. It was all of the Indragers and stuff, wasn't it? And ice trolls. Ice trolls was definitely one we had. Our winter's cold and deep, frostbite eats your feet, snow falls down and hides the ground, and ice trolls wake from sleep. Climbing to the top of snow-covered peaks is never a safe endeavour. One can slip and fall into a ravine, be buried in an avalanche, or stumble across ice trolls. Unlike the rock trolls found at lower altitudes, these permafrost-dwelling monsters treat every man they encounter as a possible ingredient for a tasty meal. Luckily, ice trolls live atop high mountain ridges, so inaccessible they rarely encounter humans, and some suppose this is why they have not mastered the basics of common speech. Others claim their harsh mountain home has stripped them of an ability they once possessed. For in a land of never-ending cold, there is no room for mercy or understanding. Ice trolls are crueler than their rocky kin, though they use similar tactics in battle, tossing stones and swinging with their mighty fists. They are heartier and stronger than rock trolls and thus more dangerous. Like rock trolls, their backs are covered in thick protective armour, meaning one should never strike them from the rear. Meanwhile, their mass means that the ard sign cannot move them. Lastly, never think of attacking them during a blizzard. At such times, they draw power from the surrounding cold and fight with increased strength. That sounds terrible, not gonna lie. Right, so let's have another look around this place. It's a nice band playing. It's oddly jovial considering the circumstances. The fact that there are corpses burning up there.
Welcome.
So there's a herbalist there.
What have you got?
Who has some wares, none of which I'm particularly interested in, so I will give that a miss for now.
So long.
There's a notice board over here. There's also a merchant here. Books and scrolls. Right, so we can get even more books in here. Marcus T.K. Hodgson.
White hair, yellow eyes, slashed face, just like he said.
Bear with me, just gonna go upstairs. There's just a random rich townsman upstairs reading a book. I hope you pay for that book, sir. Right, Marcus T.K. Hodgson.
Geralt of Rivia, known as the White Wolf, the Butcher of Blaviken.
That would be me.
Geralt of Rivia's enough. What is it?
A man came to me a few years past, paid me to keep a book for you, said you'd come for it.
Years?
Who
Who
was he?
the hell's doing that?
He didn't introduce himself, but the book has a red cover, that I remember. I'm sure I've not sold it.
Alright, see if I can find it.
And perhaps glance at the others while you're at it.
I'm glad to look at the others, yeah.
Be glad to look over what you got.
So, he's keeping a book for me, apparently, but he also has plenty of others as well, so... Beast of the Tukaj Foothills. Naranson, son of Gunnestad. The little peasant who confounded his lord. The Necronomicon? That sounds... The Ways and Manners of Skellige folk book. Okay, can I also sell all the books that I've read back to back? Right. Well, I will read over the books that I just picked up first, and then I'll find this special book that was being kept back for me somewhere. The peasants of the Tukaj foothills say fiends are born of magic, for at times witches cast spells on bears causing them to mount boars, and the resultant offspring is neither boar nor bear, but has the makings of a fiend. A boar and a bear, ugh. Usually such boar piglets die of hunger, but they are at times found and taken in by witches. Raised on enchanted milk, they grow in strength, and soon enough the milk is no longer enough for them. Now fiends, they start hunting and kill their victims with the ferocity of a boar and the strength of a bear, yet they remain ever true to their mothers, meaning the witches. The witches protect them from danger, answer their every summons, and aid them in all things. Naranson, son of Gunnestad. When he awoke, he saw before him an endless swath of blue. On the horizon, the sky merged with the glassy sea. The storm had passed. So had the longship and all its crew. He never learned how long yet he had lain unconscious in the lifeboat. The sun had scorched his skin a purplish red and turned his lips to brittle parchment. He was overcome by a great thirst, but there was nothing on the boat with which to quench it. Had he been spared from so much only to die now? No. Naranson was the son of the great Gunnestad, and he would never give up. He had 20 springs under his belt when he embarked on his voyage. When was that? Long ago. Very long ago. Back when his friends still lived, when he still had his left hand, not this stiff stump, when his beard was still red and not streaked with silver. 20 years at sea? How are you even alive? The drive for glory which had driven him from his family home had demanded a high price. Naranson had never given that a second thought, but now alone in a lifeboat in the middle of an endless ocean, he felt tired. He wanted to once again set eyes on the farm on which he had been raised, to see the eyes of his mother, who had lulled him to sleep with tales of the deeds of the legendary heroes. Now he had become one of them. Now mothers would tell their sons about him. His greatest dream had become reality. He should have been happy, but he wasn't. Perhaps he had, if he had known then what travails and hardship awaited him. Yet no man can know his future. One thing is for sure, however, even if Naranson had known what horrors this life had in store for him, he never would have chosen another. He was the son of the great Gunnestad, and he'd walked the path of glory from which one can never stray, no matter the cost. So did he die out there? I'm guessing he did. There's probably no coming back from that. The little peasant who confounded his lord. Reuben soon opened the door up to see what was the matter. The boy was 12 years of age and a straw-coloured shock of cow-licked hair and a freckled face with ruddy cheeks. Well, what do you want? Grumbled the page, looking at Reuben's shirt, which was covered in the same filth as everything else in the village. Well, nothing, rightly, Reuben shrugged. Thing is, sir, this here is me home. Then get inside it. The boy wasn't scared, instead stood on his doorstep looking at the piece of paper. So what's this, sir? A letter? The boy asked. Read it and find out for yourself, the scribe said, growing angry, though Reuben didn't seem to notice. I feared I can't, sir. Don't know how. What the devil's taking you, scribe? The lord hollered. He was still sitting in his carriage and hadn't heard the conversation. Clearly he was growing bored. The whelp says he doesn't know how to read. Aye, 'cause he don't, Reuben confirmed and took 2 steps towards the carriage, his bare feet sinking into the muddy grey muck. And the ones inside, did they? Questioned the lord. Where do you reckon they learn a thing like that, my lord? The peasant asked, perplexed, for he had always thought great lords like that must surely know everything. So who in your village does know how to read? Asked the lord, growing ever more irritated. Not no one, my lord. Scribe, the lord said, leaning far out while leaning on his carriage door. Could you explain to me how I am to enforce my declaration on people who do not know how to read and write? I don't know, my lord, the scribe said, taking a step back as if he expected the lord to jump out of the carriage and assault him. The fault was not his, but the lord was in the habit of beating his scribe when he grew angry, no matter the cause. Ouch. And the Necronomicon. To think that man appeared on an empty world and gained mastery over it unchallenged is as foolish as thinking the world will cease to exist after man's passing. Before the first humans set foot in our world, it was inhabited by beings superior to men in terms of wisdom, strength, and every other virtue. The beings I have in mind still exist in our present time, though they do not exist in the sphere available to human understanding. They occupy no dimension known to us. Where they live can be best be described as the space between worlds. At times one can sense their presence through a sudden unknown scent or a strange feeling of anxiety with no apparent cause. A wind which blows in several directions at once is another example of a subtle manifestation in our realm. There exist various imaginings of what these creatures might look like, yet these have nothing to do with reality, for man is incapable of conceiving something which he has not seen, even in his wildest nightmares. The greatest horror these beings bring come precisely from their indefiniteness and a lack of concrete form, yet it would be a mistake to think that a formless creature is necessarily harmless. The power they possess is sufficient to lay waste to a forest, level a city, or whip an entire sea into froth and waves. Today man is master of the world, but only for a short while. They await patiently and will soon arise and regain their one-time glory. This is as certain as dawn follows dusk, and dusk then follows again soon after, to drown everything once more in darkness. That's a very, very foreboding tale, is it not? Right, and the ways and manners of Skellige folk. One's attention immediately is drawn to the fact that their seemingly impoverished huts shine with cleanliness. The walls of their homes are usually made from pine and covered with a substance derived from sap, which keeps out all manner of vermin. I believe it scares off insects as well, for I did not see a single one indoors during my entire stay in Skellige. The interiors of their huts are quite spacious and usually divided into 2 rooms. The first is used by the members of the household during the day and is separated by a doorway from the second. which acts as a bedroom, contains only simple wooden beds covered with linens that resemble sacks more than continental bedding. In the middle of each main chamber stands a large round table, around which the members of the household gather to eat only once a day. This usually happens just after dusk, the time for their main meal. This supper is a hallowed event and is carried out in a nearly ritualistic manner. At its start, before the family members have ever even taken their seats around the table, the eldest of the family tears off a piece of bread and places it on something of a household altar, which occupies a place of honour in each Skellige home. This serves as a symbol of respect for the deceased ancestors. At the end of the ceremony for the departed, the entire family sits down to eat. The eldest one places a steaming bowl in the middle of the table. Everyone has their own spoon, which they dip one by one into the basin of food. They most often eat porridge, over which they pour a gravy made from meat or fish. Ugh! Sounds disgusting. Curiously, immediately upon the supper's conclusion, the eldest takes the piece of bread set aside at the start of the meal and places it in a large amphora. As I later learn, when an amphora becomes full, it is filled with boiling water and a beverage is brewed, which in taste somewhat resembles beer, though it is much weaker. What a strange concoction that is. We have some interesting things to find when we do go to Skellige. I'll be interested to see all their communities and traditions, I suppose. Okay, nothing else interesting in the bestiary for now. So, message from an old friend: find a book with a red cover using your Witcher senses. Loot. The Merry Adventures of Muriel the Lovely Harlot, Illustrated Edition.
Adventures of Muriel the Lovely Harlot, adorned with humorous engravings.
Is that the one? I would be surprised if that's the one. It doesn't seem like the book for me, but it might be. I mean, it's a quest item, so we'll read it. On one occasion, Muriel went on a journey to Aranti and Maribor, accompanied by her nursemaid. Their path took them through a forest, and in this forest lived a raucous troop of bandits. This infamous group was led by Flynn Selms, and all the king's men had been unable to bring them to justice. Alas, such was Muriel's great misfortune, these bandits chose to attack her carriage. Muriel's nursemaid was all blind and deaf. She did not wake when a tree fell in front of their carriage with a loud thud, nor when the bandits fought a fierce battle against their guardsmen. When Flynn ripped open the carriage door with his muscular arms and stepped inside, Muriel had to deal with the danger herself. Make our guests comfortable, young lady, the old nursemaid muttered in her sleep. Muriel obediently carried out her instructions. Huh. Well, I'm gonna guess that wasn't the book we wanted. Not gonna lie, I don't think that has anything that really pertains to Geralt. So, what else have we got? There's one here. The treatment of furnicles through cauterization.
Treatment of furuncles through cauterization. A study.
Everyone's seen a boil, usually more than they care to. These deformities don't just mar your beauty, they can be signs of disease or even the disease's cause and epicenter. If your lungs wheeze and your heart flutters, or if you're just sick of pustules, you can carve them off and be free of this ill for good. When you go to carve off a boil, use a sharp knife which you've had a dog lick thoroughly beforehand, for a dog's tongue works wonders in healing wounds. You've got to be brave as you go. To be fair, that was proven in Fable. You've got to be brave as you go about it, slicing as confidently and steadily as if carving off a hunk of cheese. Then quickly cauterize the resultant wound using a red-hot poker. Don't pay any mind to screams or tears. Pus, bile, and any of the humours need to be gathered in a basin and dumped in a pit, and the pit covered, else the illness might return. That's one hell of a treatment, let me tell you that for one. My manifesto, the life of Jacques de Aldersberg.
My manifesto. Must be it. There's a letter inside.
So this was the old the old leader of the Order of the Flaming Rose, wasn't it? Okay. The reasons for choosing Jacques de Aldersberg as Grand Master remain a mystery. The Order of the White Rose had gone through a crisis in those times and was on the verge of collapse. So one might guess that the Brethren wished to have someone decisive as their leaders, someone with a clear vision. De Aldersberg was precisely such a man. One of his first decisions was to change the Brotherhood's name to the Order of the Flaming Rose. Yep, I remember that. With Siegfried and the like. The most puzzling aspect, however, and their mass culling of the elves, I remember that quite well as well. The most puzzling aspect, however, is that the Order and King himself decided to trust a man who, for all intents and purposes, had appeared out of nowhere. They say he was a wanderer, an itinerant priest who moved crowds with his speeches declaiming non-humans. They say he worked miracles and showed his flock visions of a world destroyed by the White Frost. He was undoubtedly a man of great charisma, one instilled with unshakable principles which he in turn tried to instill in others. Was he truly a source? Was he indeed gifted with raw magic talent? That we'll never know for certain. Well, I remember Jacques d'Aldersberg, obviously. I didn't realise he was just appointed like that, though. Letter from A. Witcher and the ocean of possibility, some events are more likely and some less. It is not easy to fish out the first, not even when one's intellect stretches through all time and space. I left this letter for you in the hope that, despite all odds, you will come across it one day, for I must warn you, mankind is threatened. The prophesied destruction by the White Frost is not just the babbling of some mad she-elf. Perhaps I will have the opportunity to convince you of this in person. If not, I must rely on this letter, which you will read many years from now, at a time when you know more than you did when we first met. Know that nothing will save the world except preparing its entire population for this catastrophe. The old tales say a child of the Elder Blood can stave off the danger, but I tried and failed. Ever since I have been haunted by a hideous vision, a crowned wraith, the spectre of my failure. I was the chosen one, and the chosen one failed. You and your brotherhood are our only hope. When the time of the wolf's blizzard comes, men shall perish, and only the Ubermen will survive. Your duty is to give the world Ubermen. Whatever you think of me, do not fail as I have failed. Alvin! That's Alvin! If everyone remembers back to the back to the Witcher 1, he was the child, wasn't he, who managed to jump back and forth in time, didn't he? Because Alvin was Jacques d'Aldersberg. And he became the Grandmaster of the Order of the Flaming Rose. And yeah, haunted by a hideous vision, a crowned wraith. That must be whatchamacallit, Eredin, or the King of the Wild Hunt, the one who we actually fought in the Witcher 1, if I'm not mistaken. Shit. And obviously, yeah, he was a child of the Elder Blood, wasn't he? And the only other child of the Elder Blood that we are currently aware of is Ciri. And so she is the only one who can stave off this danger of the White Frost and the Wild Hunt themselves. That is a really cool inclusion. Like, that is genuinely such a cool inclusion. That's actually that's honestly so nice. That secondary contract, was that a secondary contract? If I can find it anyway. Be here somewhere. Message from an old friend. Geralt found the book, and inside it a letter from someone he had once known. Though he gave no outward sign of it, this filled him with touching recollections of old times. To this day, I don't know who the old friend was nor what he had written in the letter, and that's a shame, for judging by Geralt's behaviour, therein lies a very interesting tale. Of course, yeah. God damn, that's crazy. I can't believe we actually have a letter from Alvin, the child who me and Triss raised all those years ago, and obviously was Jacques d'Aldersberg. Might as well read these other two books while we're here. Moribundia, the vampire's last likeness. Thereupon Isabella took Edward's glistening visage in her hand and embraced his icy lips, which were twisted into a cynical grin. Forgive me, my love, she whispered, stifling the sobs heaving her bosom, but my heart doth long with a fiercer passion for yon werewolf, whom thou hatest with all thy vampiric vowness. 'Tis for the best, spoke Edward, shifting his pale face towards the equally pale moon. With me thy life was ever endangered, with yon werewolf thou shalt know peace and happiness. Edward turned around and took a step towards the exit, but Isabella grabbed his wrist and bade he stop. The touch of her hand was so tender, his heart newly began to beat anew after centuries of deathly stillness. There is more, spoke she, averting his penetrating gaze. I am with child. Was that a Twilight reference? Oh my god. Gets more and more bonkers. Pteromancy, of the noble art of cheese divination. What? What splendid diversity reigns in the kingdom of cheese. The ripened curd can be white or blue, hard or soft, fresh or aged, from the milk of cows, sheep or goats, brined, pickled or untouched. This list could have gone till the end of time, and each of them, every last slice, every morsel and crumb, not only brings with it an unmatched rush of sensory experience, but in the right hands can be made to reveal the universe's most closely guarded secrets. For cheese, like the innards of sacrificed animals, the flight of a swallow or vivid dreams can be used for divination. The depth and size of a cheese's holes reveal which rains will fall in the coming year, or the colour of mould veins tells who shall love whom, and the scent of a hard Grana Padano predicts which army will vanquish its foes and which shall perish. The best divination, however, is done using the ancient method of fondue. One must simply melt 2 different kinds of cheese, preferably Emmental and Gruyere, in white wine or in a pinch of dry apple cider. Then one must use a long stick to immerse a morsel of bread in the resultant thick soupy mixture, all the while keeping in mind the question, what shall my child be like when he or she, as the case may be, grows? Then bring the cheese-covered morsel of bread up to a candle so that it casts a shadow on the wall. The shape will provide a sure and easily understood answer to your query. Cheese! Cheese can do so many things. It's incredible. Right, on that note, guys, we're going to end this episode here, so thank you very much for watching. I do hope you all have enjoyed this. If you have, then please do like, comment, subscribe and share. It's been a very, very interesting episode, this. I did not expect to see a letter from Alvin, of all people, this far forward into the trilogy. But yeah, hope you all have a wonderful day, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye.